Part of me wanted to go to medical school. And I will say my mother did tell me I shouldn't be a doctor because she told me that women don't make good doctors. She couldn't have been further from the truth.
When life's visible and hidden battles make you doubt that peace, love, and full-on living are possible, We Win Within brings the proof. Guests crack open their great stories that may overlap with what each of us carries, sharing raw truths, hard-won discoveries, and triumphs that illuminate the road for us all. I'm Hindy Stegman, daughter of Holocaust survivors, speaker, coach, and fellow journeyer in life, inviting you to listen, look inside, and claim the champion already rising in your heart.
So, hi, everybody. I'm Hindy Stegman, and I'm your host for the We Win Within podcast. And today we're in for a special treat. And I always say special, but every single guest is special. We have Janet Shore with us, and I'm not even going to tell you anything about Janet. You're going to discover as she speaks about her journey. So, welcome, Janet.
Thank you, Hindy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good. So, Janet, let's go back, which is where I like to start with everybody, and tell us a little bit about your childhood. Where did you grow up? Where are you in birth order? Let's hear something about your childhood.
Sure, I can do that. Well, I am one of four children. I am number three. I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger brother. I am born and raised in Western Canada. I was born in the prairies. I was born in Brandon, Manitoba. And then as a family, we moved. My dad was transferred a few times. So we moved from Brandon, Manitoba to Regina, Saskatchewan. From there, we lived in Edmonton, Alberta, and then in Calgary, Alberta. But we stayed in Calgary, Alberta. And I consider Calgary is where I grew up. Went to the later years of public school, junior high school, as we called it in Alberta, middle school in some places, and then high school. And then I did my university went back to Manitoba, to Winnipeg, Manitoba for university. So I've lived in a few different provinces.
Well, it's interesting. So you didn't live in the hub in Canada like Toronto and Montreal of the Jewish community where so many, um, so many people emigrated to, right?
Not growing up. I moved to Toronto once I was finished university and was already starting my career. And I moved with a girlfriend to Toronto. And then once there is when I met my husband.
So I'm just curious because I really don't know much about growing up in that part of Canada. What was it like for you as a Jewish girl?
I was very privileged because in Regina, we moved from Brandon to Regina when I was only 6 months old. So I can't talk about Brandon. But in Regina, we moved away from Regina when I was 6 and a half. So I had my kindergarten, started school kindergarten, and then I had half of grade one. However, the cheder, as they called it, the after school Hebrew school in Regina was a very good school, and they had very good teachers. And I can't speak to the numbers of the Jewish population in Regina because I wouldn't have known that at 6 years old, but I was sent to after school Hebrew school when I did start to learn Hebrew. When we moved from Regina to Edmonton at 6 and a half, I then went into the Hebrew day school. And they weren't sure at the Hebrew day school in Edmonton where I would stand because what would I have learned or what could I have learned at the after school Hebrew school in Regina. However, I actually knew more than they knew. I could read better than they could read at that point. Maybe there were less kids in the class, maybe we got more specialized attention. I'm not really certain, because again, when you're so young, you don't necessarily pay attention to those details. However, I did go into the Hebrew day school in Edmonton. I was just fine. I caught up just fine. And then when we moved to Calgary at the end of my grade four, I went into the Hebrew school in Calgary, the day school, and met my many friends that are still my friends today. And I was just fine. I fit in just fine in terms of the level of education.
So pre going into like the Hebrew day program, did you feel any difference in your class? Did Was there anything at that time to make you feel different?
I was very young and I had really no idea that I was different in any way, shape, or form. My father worked for a company. My father was a geophysicist, so he always worked for a company that was, a big company. And of course, my parents always had non-Jewish friends. They had Jewish friends as well as non-Jewish friends. They were friends with everybody. There was no discrimination. There was nothing to point fingers or anything like that. My best friends, my two little girls that lived in my neighborhood, my next door neighbor and the girl across the street, were not Jewish, but I played with them all the time. And I got invited, which was, when I reflect back, I think it was a really beautiful experience for me. I got invited Friday night to next door for Fish Friday because they would eat fish on Fridays. Across the street at Autumn's house, they would invite me over to decorate their Christmas tree. And the interesting thing is, even to this day and age, I have many non-Jewish friends as well as many Jewish friends. And I remember at 5 years old going to decorate that Christmas tree. I've never been invited again anywhere, but I remember that very much. I did not feel different. I felt blessed.
Beautiful. Well, that's great because I don't think we know enough about people that live in other places than where we grow up. And we assume what their experience is our experience.
Correct.
So I'm happy to hear that. So, all right, you decide to go to college, university. Where
In Winnipeg at University of Manitoba.
and what did you study?
I studied pharmacy. I am a retired pharmacist.
And what made you go into pharmacy?
Oh, that's a great question. My mother told me to. And that is not a joke. That is the absolute truth. And now my story, of course, and when I reflect back, I think, oh, maybe there were some other things I could have done. But knowing in that day also, when I went to university, you went to school to become a thing. That's how I viewed it. You didn't go to school, the courses and the plethora of types of degrees and types of educations and the things that people have the opportunities to involve themselves in now are so different than when I went to university. There were the professions, and then there wasn't like you could do an English degree. I don't know what I would, well, I could never have done an English degree. It just seemed, I knew I wanted to do something in science. I didn't know what I was going to do in science. Part of me wanted to go to medical school. And I will say my mother did tell me I shouldn't be a doctor because she told me that women don't make good doctors. She couldn't have been further from the truth. However, in her mind, and the way she saw it, was that women wanted to be wives and mothers. And if you want to be a doctor, how can you be a wife and a mother and be a good doctor at the same time? So she told me that no, I don't think that's good for you. And then she actually wanted to be a pharmacist. My mother had the opportunity to go to university, which is very unheard of for a woman of her age and generation. But she was the youngest of children by a stretch. So her older siblings encouraged her and helped her pay for university. But she wanted to be a pharmacist, and they told her, oh no, that's not a good profession for you, because in what they knew is pharmacists were struggling at that time. So they said, no, 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 don't go to school and be that. So my mom said, I was sitting at the kitchen table and I said, what should I take in university? And she said, oh, be a pharmacist. And I said, okay. And that's where it started, and that's what I did.
So, did you always listen to your mother? Were you a good girl?
I probably was more of a good girl than not. I was a typical teenager and I did go out and have fun, but I wasn't one of those I've never done anything to the extreme in my life. So I wasn't an extreme partier. I wasn't. I did go out and stay out late, maybe in later years till 2, 3 in the morning with my friends, but it wasn't anything. We were just out and going out for something to eat. It was nothing ever dramatic.
And what about your siblings? Did they kind of follow what mom or dad said that they should do?
No. Yes and no. My older brother actually was disappointed my mother. My mother thought that my older brother should have been her lawyer. So he went to university, and his second year of university, he dropped out and moved out of the house. And my mother was so upset. Of course, it all worked out really well in the end, but that was very disappointing to her. My sister, my older sister, from the time she was about 2, wanted to be a nurse. And my mom said, "Oh, no, I don't think you should be a nurse." But no, when a parent tells you sometimes don't do something, then you want to do it. So she said, "No, I'm going to be a nurse." And she became a nurse. And in hindsight, I think maybe she enjoyed it. She had a good profession, a good career. But I think in hindsight, that wouldn't have been number one on her list. My younger brother started out, my father was an engineer. My younger brother started out in engineering and quickly realized that that wasn't for him. And he changed and became a chartered accountant. I think it's called CPA now. They changed the names of everything. And he's had a good career.
But it's interesting when you're a family with many siblings, you know, who's the one that definitely followed and who's the rebellious one, and does that stay with you forever? So take us on your journey. You went to university and you studied pharmacy.
Yes. And I graduated. I was not even 22 years old yet. And I thought I had the world by the tail. And oh boy, I'm a pharmacist and I can do this for the rest of my life. And aren't I lucky? And I have a great career. Anyways, I went back home to Calgary, Alberta for a couple years and started out, working in the drugstore where I had worked as a student the year before. And even after that, in that first year, I thought, this is all there is? Oh, I think I could do something else. I don't know. So I had some friends that did residencies in hospital pharmacy. And I thought, oh, I think I should do that. I feel like I could learn more. So I went back and I didn't go back. I applied and got accepted into residency in hospital pharmacy at the Foothills Hospital in Calgary. I did that for a year. It's a year program. And then after that, I worked for a few months, but then I moved to Toronto with a girlfriend. And my goal at that point in time was to work in a hospital, downtown Toronto in a teaching hospital, because to me, that was really a big thing. And that to me would be a really good way to have a career. And I did love it, actually. I did love it. I had the opportunity to work, and I worked at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto. And it was great. I was involved in many things. I taught pharmacy students they came from the University of Toronto and they came to the hospitals for part of their program, and we taught them different things from our clinical level. It was a great career, that part. But then when I met my husband and we moved out of the city, I knew I couldn't work in the hospital downtown because I couldn't drive and take call at 3 in the morning to go in that far. And that's when I exited the downtown teaching hospital pharmacy career and segued a couple of years later into community pharmacy where I stayed for the
How
rest
was
of my life.
that for you? Did you enjoy that?
Why I enjoyed community pharmacy as much as I did at the beginning, towards the end of my career, and this is sort of where my story comes in, is I started to realize that maybe I didn't buy into 100% one way of doing things. But I absolutely enjoyed my career for most of it. But what made it very special for me is I worked in a very small community pharmacy. So just if you ever watched TV over the years and you watched this show Cheers, where everybody knows your name, that's how it was at the drugstore where I worked. It was a small community pharmacy, and there weren't very many of us working there, and I knew everybody's name. If you Hindi were my customer or my patient and you walked in the door and you wanted something, I probably could have told you what you wanted before you came in the door, what you wanted to ask. And I would know, I could remember what people were allergic to. they'd stand at the shelf and they'd look at things like, oh, no, you can't take that. You're allergic to that. So it was very nice, small community. It wasn't a big Shoppers Drug Mart. It wasn't a big store. It wasn't transient in any way. I got to know my people and we grew up together.
Well, if I remember correctly, in my years ago, um, we would go to the pharmacist before we would go to the doctor sometime to ask their opinion. This is going on with me or that's going on with me. What do you think? Um,
Absolutely. And I had many, many, many customers come in and do that exact thing. Janet, what do you think? Or the doctor said this. Are they right? You know, don't you know? The one situation that really stands out in my mind, which we told the patient, next time maybe that wouldn't be the best way to handle it. We had a patient, a customer with heart issues, and this particular customer ended up in the hospital, ended up with a procedure, and ended up needing a certain medication, but wanted to check with us first before he took his medication. So he waited. He waited like 3 days till he could meet with us because I think it was a weekend or I'm not really certain what the time frame was, but I just remember he had to wait 3 days before he could consult with one of us to see if he should take the medication. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, there has to be a balance here of when it's really important. But we felt very grateful that they trusted us so much.
yeah, it's too bad it's not like that any longer because, you know, a lot of places in the big pharmacies, people change all the time. And, you go to the pharmacy, you don't even know who's going to be there next. So it's just a
Yes,
different
that's
feeling.
true.
It's just a different feeling. So, okay, you were working at the pharmacy and go ahead.
Well, I think my journey of liking integrative health, as I like to call it, um, all modalities, not just traditional Western medicine, started a long time ago when I went to a conference with my husband, who is a chiropractor, and he started to talk about the body's ability to heal itself. And, I started asking questions, and then we went to this one conference and I bought a book on vitamin C. Vitamin C was in my wheelhouse. It's a vitamin, but that wasn't necessarily a tool that a medical doctor would tell you to take if there was something wrong with you. So I started to be very intrigued in other ways of healing, not knowing that I was really going to be intrigued in many energy types of healing as well down the road, because I was at a point in my life where my children were little. So I got busy, of course, with working and raising a family and taking the kids to this activity and that activity. I always felt within, even though I had a good practice and even though I enjoyed being a pharmacist, even though I was very much trusted and very well respected with my customers, with my patients, with my colleagues, inside I always felt like there was something more, but I didn't know what that something more was. I didn't want to go back to school and further my pharmacy education. I didn't really want to get another degree in anything, but I didn't really know what that more was, or it was like an unsettled feeling, but I pushed that down because I was busy. I was working, I was raising a family, but I always did do volunteer work on the side as well. I have found things to keep myself always involved and busy, being a people person, helping other people in other ways. I only worked at the pharmacy part-time, 2, 3 days a week. So I did have a couple days when the kids didn't need me as they got a bit older to do other types of volunteer work. For example, I canvassed for the Kidney Foundation and was a team leader for over 20 years. So I involved myself in that. I involved myself in coordinating at a volunteer level pharmacy continuing education. So I would work with another colleague and we would get speakers to come in and organize the the evening so that we could learn as pharmacists together in a group. I did lots of things, but I think what happened is as the years went by, towards the end of my career, maybe this is the universe, maybe this is my energy speaking, the law of attraction. I'm not certain, but I started meeting people that were involved in Reiki and energy work and other healing modalities. So I started learning that there are other ways that people can heal. It's not just about going to the doctor and getting a prescription. And that was very eye-opening for me. Now, don't get me wrong. I love doctors. We need doctors. They can help us in a minute. They're fantastic. They're fantastic at what they do. I mean, life-saving surgery is life-saving surgery. And if you've ever been in a position to need something of that, you know that it's very important. However, other practitioners in other areas, other naturopathic doctors, for example, is someone that has studied Reiki, is somebody that has studied tapping, other types of energy work and healing work, that can go along with Western medicine. I don't think it should be this or that. My belief is it should be integrative. My belief is that we should work together, or practitioners should work together, because it's better for the patient, it's better for us if we can draw from the expertise of everybody to heal our bodies.
So, if you think back to when you started to meet people that were doing some of these, let's call them alternative modalities, how did that feel inside? Oh, yes. Were you fighting with yourself? Did you feel at home? I'm just curious how that resonated with you.
That's a fantastic question and a very good way of putting it because I did not really feel at home when I was at work.
Oh, when you
And
were at work, you didn't feel at home.
yes,
Interesting.
because I was working and I was serving the community within the modality of Western traditional medicine. And it's hard to step outside that box because when people come to you in the pharmacy, they're coming to you as the pharmacist and they're expecting you to serve them from within that box because that's what they know. So when the pharmacist all of a sudden might start talking about things that are not within that box, my people would listen to me and be some of them would be interested. And of course, I picked and chose what I said to whom because that's what you do in life anyways, knowing with intuition, knowing who would be able to receive something different than the regular. But for that's when I started to not feel at home, but I didn't use those words, but I like those words because I think that's better. I started saying, I'm not happy with being a pharmacist because I feel like I'm not living my truth. Because I want to also explore these other things, but how do you have confidence and clarity in your work when you know something else might help them, but you really aren't allowed to talk about that?
You know, the words that you just said are so important, and I want to say them. I living my truth? Am I living and doing what I feel congruent? So many of us become robotic in what we do. And we are not living our truth, whether it's in work or in relationships or whatever it is, because I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that it must have been pretty scary for you to kind of step out of that box a little bit and start speaking something else.
I don't know if I would call it scary, but yes, there was an element of that because what were people going to think? However, I was very careful what I said to whom because I didn't.
Your mic just went out. I can't hear you. I
You know,
you're back.
I'm back. Okay, well,
Either you froze or I froze. So don't worry about it. We'll just
I'm
keep.
getting a message right now that says my internet connection is unstable, and I'm not certain why because it's a beautiful day outside and the sun is shining. So I don't know, that's technology for you.
That's the message from the universe. I don't know what it
Correct.
is saying, but it's saying something. Okay, let's go.
Yes, it's saying something. It's telling me I was scared when I had to start speaking. It wasn't really scary, it was interesting. People would come in and say, Janet, what do you think about such and such? And I'd pause and I'd say, you might be asking the wrong pharmacist that question because I couldn't give them a definitive answer for maybe what they wanted to hear. And I also had to be, I'm allowed to say what I thought for me, but what's right for me isn't necessarily right for them. So I had to phrase my words or word my phrases, whatever the saying is. I had to be cautious and careful how I said things. And that was a learning experience for me as well.
So, give me an example of how you had to cushion that when you spoke to someone.
What I would say is, or I could repeat the question to them and I'd say, well, that's a good question. For me, I don't believe in that because, and I would give them a reason, or I'd say, for me, I wouldn't do that. However, these are the benefits to it. And I would quote or cite traditional medicine benefits for it. And so you have to choose if what you think is right for you. I would never tell them not to do something, and I would never tell them to choose one way over the other. It had to be their decision. But if they, and I would never ever give my opinion on what I would do for me unless asked.
So, being in a small community and you say that everybody knew each other, the owner of the pharmacy, how did they take that?
The owner of the pharmacy, we didn't work, we worked opposite shifts. And then there was, it became a time, the time where I started to really feel more aligned with integrative health was towards the end of my career, and he didn't work very many hours there, and we worked alone anyways. I was the only pharmacist on duty at any given time. We had someone else in the pharmacy with us, maybe two other girls in the pharmacy with us doing other things, but I was the only pharmacist on duty. We worked solo. So, and I didn't say anything that was against any kind of policy. I would answer what I was learning or what I believed in for me, and they could take it as they would.
Well, that I still think that took a lot of courage, because you were risking your job, whether you saw it that way or not. But that was where you were headed. I assume that you were led into this path, right?
Well, it's interesting because I would come home and think, I don't want to do that job anymore. It wasn't so much, I didn't really understand, I guess, what was really going on and how I was feeling. I just knew that I didn't feel, and I like the word you use, congruent. I didn't feel 100% congruent with what I was doing.
So, where did you go from here?
Well, I continued to work, and that was really only another couple of years when we moved provinces. We moved from Ontario to New Brunswick, and we moved because our kids were already here. And when we moved provinces, I was at a point in my career where it was time to be done with it. So when we moved here, I didn't want to get a license in New Brunswick, which would involve studying and testing and everything again. And the way I was feeling, I thought, no, I'm not going to. So I decided to hang up my shingle when we moved to New Brunswick. And coinciding with that, just prior to moving, which we knew we were going to move, we just didn't know when, I was introduced to something called laughter yoga. And when I was introduced to laughter yoga, I thought, I don't know what that is. But because I wasn't working and because I was in a new province and it was in 2020, so it was in the time of the world where we were all looking for things to do, especially online, I started learning about laughter yoga and getting trained in it.
So, tell me, what is laughter yoga?
Laughter yoga is actually a very unique modality of that combines intentional laughter with yogic breathing. It's not yoga per se that we think about with poses and yoga pants and downward dog. It's not that. It's actually just intentional laughter where we bring out our inner child to play and we don't laugh in response to comedy, humor, or jokes. We do little playful exercises where we look at each other and do little things and just start to laugh. And it isn't necessarily comfortable the first time you do it, but it quickly becomes spontaneous and fun. And what laughter does is if you've ever heard the words, laughter is the best medicine. Laughter changes your body chemistry. It's the quickest way to flip yourself out of stress. It's the quickest way to flip your physiology out of stress mode. It will lower your adrenaline and your cortisol, and it will raise your good chemicals, your dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins.
So is that like the happy endorphins that are sitting inside of us that all of a sudden rise to the top or something?
That's correct. So I like to say it's getting your dose for the day. And when I was working in the pharmacy, I would often be a little bit, I don't like to use this word, but I will use it, envious, because it's not a high vibration word in my language. But I would often wonder what it would be like to work from home. Wouldn't that be nice to be able to work from home, not have to get dressed and go in to the store, just be able to do what you do from home? And of course, in my job, I wasn't able to do that. But now I can work from home because now instead of dispensing medication or doses from the bottles in the cupboard behind me, I help people dispense doses from their own internal chemistry inside themselves.
Wow, that's really interesting. I'm intrigued. I've never done laughter yoga. I've done a lot of things, but I've never. And I'm just curious if someone is in let's low vibration, depressed, sad, um, can they use this modality to get themselves out of it? Or do you already have to be feeling sort of okay to do it?
That's a fantastic question. Again, you ask really good questions. Laughter yoga can get you out of feeling low vibration. I'm going to say that for somebody that's not used to practicing laughter yoga or somebody that's not trained in it, that might be a difficult thing to do or a big stretch to thinking, oh, I'm just going to laugh. However, when you understand the benefits of laughter and when you understand how well you can make yourself feel, even if it's for a short time, you're more apt to try something in the laughter. For example, one of the laughter things that someone else told me to try is when you're driving your car and you're in traffic, especially if you live in a city that's got a lot of traffic, and you have your hands on the steering wheel, but you feel like you need a little bit of laughter in your life. Well, if your hands like this, you just do ha, 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 and then you start to laugh. Ha, 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 ha. And see, you're smiling because I'm smiling, you're smiling too. That's the mirror effect. And that little bit, that can change you. That can just make you feel a little bit better. It isn't necessarily going to last all day if you just laugh for a few seconds, because the longer effects of laughter will be in your body when you laugh for a little bit longer and play a little bit longer. However, that little bit can really help when you're in that traffic jam. And then you go, oh, maybe it's not so bad after all.
So you don't have to have a partner to mirror or anything like that. You can do it on your own.
You can, but it's much more fun in a group. And
Okay.
I think people are much more apt and motivated to laugh with a partner or in a group. I have actually myself, through my learning, when you get trained as a laughter yoga leader, teacher, there's different levels. Your mentors might say, well, when you're cleaning the toilet, laugh. Clean the toilet and laugh and giggle at the same time. And if you do that enough times, you will then associate cleaning the toilet with laughing, and it becomes like you're rewiring your brain in a sense. And so I have done that before, and I catch myself sometimes when I'm doing something and I'm feeling, well, I don't like doing this, and I go, okay, well, let's giggle through it. And I have giggled on my own. But I, of course, prefer giggling in a group because what happens when you giggle and laugh in a group and you're looking at somebody, whether it be on a screen or whether it be in person, you're mirroring them and you see them. And when they smile, you smile. When they laugh, you laugh. And you start thinking everything's funny, even when it's not really funny. You don't know what you're laughing at, but you're laughing and it's fun.
So I'm just curious. I know sometimes when you go into deep laughter, right? Belly laughing from really deep. I know for me, I've had times when all of a sudden then I start crying. I've had such a release from the laughing that I start crying. And then from crying, I go back to laughing. You think I was drunk or something. Does that happen
No,
within laughter yoga?
that is absolutely the truth. Again, you've asked another great question or brought up another great point because it is a release. It is a release of emotions. And when I am facilitating a laughter yoga session for people that have never um, participated before, I try to remember to say the words, give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to play. Give yourself permission to use your emotions and get out of your head and into your heart. And when you're able to get out of your head, your logical mind, and into your heart and into your emotions, when you release energy, tears may come. You are absolutely right. And I have had that happen within a group where somebody shed tears. Change to laughter again after, but sometimes tears do come. And that is okay. And that's actually beautiful because that's moving the energy. And that's the whole point of it.
Think that there's a lot of energy and movement because when you just the thought of laughing, you watch a comedy and you do a belly laughing, you feel good.
Yes.
You feel good. So you're shifting. So if I'm shifting, then I'm feeling better. And if I'm feeling better, then my reaction with people that I'm reacting with, whether it's on the phone or in person, is going to be um better. I won't be reactive in the same way. So is
Absolutely.
this something that you recommend to go to sleep with, to start your morning with? Does it matter? Is there a recipe?
There's not really a recipe, it's what works for everybody. My personal routine is I have a laughter buddy. And every morning I laugh with my laughter buddy. It's on the telephone. We're not looking at each other, but she's my teacher and we're both trained. So this is not a stretch for what we do. And I phone her, picks up the phone, and we just start to laugh. There's no talk, there's no chit chat at that point in time. We just laugh. We laugh for 2 solid minutes. And then we'll stop for a minute where we catch our breath and we breathe to reoxygenate our bodies. And then we laugh again for 2 minutes. That's a great way to start the day because then what laughter will do is it will boost your resilience, increase your resilience. And exactly what you said, it very much changes the way you respond to things in your life. We all have things in our lives. Not every day is a good day, but every day has something good in it. However, when you have something come your way that might be considered a challenge, if you're feeling better, you can respond to it better.
Wow, that's great. I know that even watching, sometimes you see on television um a meme or something with a little baby that's laughing uncontrollable. You can't help but laugh along with that baby. And it feels so good, right?
Absolutely. I mean, people go to comedy shows and watch things on YouTube, comedies, because they want to laugh and they want to feel better. But here's what I say about comedy is not everybody thinks the same thing is funny.
That's true.
And I go to comedy shows and I'll won't laugh at something they've said because I didn't catch it. They talk so fast or they go from one topic to another so quickly. And also sometimes what they say I don't think is funny. The next person might think it's funny, but that particular comment I don't think is funny. We don't all laugh at the same things. So when we do laughter yoga and it's just intentional laughing, really at nothing, everything is funny. And it doesn't matter, but it is.
Wow. Wow, that opens up a whole world of possibilities. Because even though we're not supposed to be driving and talking on the phone, but today you got hands free, and here in Florida, it's okay. I can imagine also if you're stressed out, you could call your laughing buddy and say, hey, let's spend a couple of minutes or whatever. And have that immediate release, whether it lasts a long time or not, doesn't really matter. You're just getting out of that low vibration, right?
That's absolutely correct. And I have laughed in the car. And in this day and age of hands-free, and in this day and age of everyone talking on their phone hands-free while they're driving their car, and you don't look a little bit crazy when you're laughing because everybody's doing they're talking. So you don't it doesn't necessarily look like you're talking to yourself or laughing with yourself, even if I am, because I have done that where I'm driving along and just laughing with myself out loud because the next person over thinks you're just talking to someone on your phone. And it does. It just gives you that flips that physiology in your body immediately and helps in that moment. Now, I am going to say that there are times where you can't have yourself do it. And we don't laugh. Laughter yoga is not laughing at anything or at anyone. And learning what I'm learning within the spiritual world and with energy healers, we still have to honor our feelings and we have to honor where we're at. So if we are in a particular situation that is extremely stressful or sad, maybe laughing at that particular time is not right to tell somebody, oh, just start to laugh, because that wouldn't be appropriate at that time. So that would be the exception. However, when you're just feeling a little bit down or a little bit lethargic or a little bit thinking, oh, I'm not feeling at my best today, if one is able to laugh at something that in their mind they're thinking about or just laugh spontaneously, you will automatically change the physiology in your body and lower those stress hormones.
I like what you just said, and I don't agree with everything 100%
Okay.
because for me, everything is intention. So if I'm aware that I am very sad about a situation, or even it could even be a death, I'm feeling sad. I'm really feeling sad. And I feel sad, but my intention is I don't want to feel sad any longer today. I'll come back to the sadness. My intention is I want to feel better. I'm not going to say joyful necessarily, but I want to feel better. I do. And my intention is to make that happen.
I agree with you 100%, and I like the way you said it because that's sort of what I was trying to say, but not necessarily. I didn't say it in the words maybe that came out the way you're saying it because you've said it exactly right. But your key words there were, I will come back to that. The key here is we deserve to live a joyful life. We deserve to be happy, and we need to feel joyful, and we need to be happy. However, we can't ignore and suppress when there is something to be addressed. It doesn't have to be in that moment, you're right, and we can come back to it as long as it's not ignored forever and we acknowledge it. We don't even have to be super sad about it. What we've acknowledged that we are experiencing that and it has occurred in our life, and that way it doesn't land in our body and stay there and cause problems.
You know, over the years, I've done so many different things. And there are times when I would say to people, okay, see what time it is. How long do you want to stay in the sadness? You want 20 minutes? You want a half an hour? Put your alarm on, feel it. Feel it as deeply as you want. When the alarm goes off, let's switch for a while. Because when we stay stuck in the yuck, the longer we stay stuck, it's really not so easy to come out. It's easy to say to somebody else, oh, yeah, just laugh or just do this. But when we train ourselves, I think everything is training.
100%.
So,
You've nailed it.
so how does somebody learn to do laughter yoga? Is it a course on YouTube? Do you how do we do this, Janet?
Well, there are many different ways. If somebody just wants to laugh within a laughter yoga session, there are laughter clubs they could attend. There are also YouTube videos. Dr. Madan Kataria is the founder of Laughter Yoga. He founded it in 1995 in a park in Mumbai, and it has grown to many more people around the world in over like 150 countries, 1,000 laughter yogis around the world. There are lots of YouTube videos people could find, or they can find someone that facilitates, like myself, a laughter yoga session and laugh within a group. To actually facilitate yourself a session, Dr. Kateria likes people to be certified and take a laughter yoga leader course. You can become a laughter yoga teacher after, where you teach people to become laughter yoga leaders. There are actually also laughter yoga master trainers, and I'm not too sure what they do because I haven't reached that level yet, but there are different levels of teaching and learning and facilitating. I am a laughter yoga leader, which is the first level where I can facilitate laughter yoga sessions. That brings up an interesting point because yesterday I was at a book reading and I met a woman and I said something about laughter yoga, and she says, "Oh, I did that at," and she names the yoga place here in town. I go, "Oh, but this isn't yoga." She goes, "No, I know. We were just shaking hands and laughing." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, that would be a laughter yoga exercise that you would do." So whoever did that with her either is trained and just doesn't use it or has heard of it and was incorporating that into their yoga session.
Well, I'm glad you bring up training because so often in the, I want to use the word new age and I don't want to use the word new age. I don't know what word to use right now in the woo woo world or whatnot. People go and they take a workshop or a course and they call themselves a coach. I am now a life coach and I can, coach people. And I don't care what modality it is. If you're working with people and you're not trained in what happens if people do start laughing uncontrollably or crying or going to a past life memory or who knows what, you're dealing with people and emotions, right?
Right.
And I'm sure that there are people that just do what you said happened in this place. I mean, shake your hand and you start laughing and ha ha ha. Not to say that there was anything wrong necessarily, but I think it's so important that if you're going to do this, to do it with somebody that is trained so
Has some
that they
understanding.
know in case an emotion, because we never know when emotion is going to come up, right?
Correct. And with the word training also also comes side by side with experience, because the more you do, the more you learn, so the more you know, and then the more you know how to handle things. Because laughter yoga is also not just for one grouping of people. Laughter yoga is for everyone. And some people, some laughter yoga leaders, teachers will specialize or focus on kids. Some will focus or specialize on Alzheimer's patients. And
Oh,
therefore, your approach is going to be very different because your
sure.
audience is very different. And so there isn't necessarily a particular course. However, I have taken extra sessions and teachings with Dr. Kateria online where he addresses these different situations because, and it's also good to talk to colleagues, people that, like a coach might talk to another coach, for instance, a life coach, where you can talk to other people that are facilitating laughter yoga that do concentrate on a certain area to get some tips and tricks on what to do there. Because it is very important, because there will be a very different response based on the audience you're facilitating for.
So typically, how long is a session?
Sessions vary. Some people run sessions for only 30 minutes, and some people run sessions for 45 minutes to an hour. My, I find personally a 45-minute session is good. A 45-minute session, especially with newbies, is good because that gives you a few minutes at the beginning to discuss what laughter yoga is, talk about briefly, because people don't want to sit and listen to you yap for a long time. They want to do it because laughing isn't about talking, laughing is about doing and experiencing it. But that will give you a few minutes to talk about it, and then you do your little play time and your clapping. It involves gentle movement. If you're in person, it can even involve playing music and a little bit of dancing. If people are up for dancing, clapping, moving their arms, and of course, it involves the breathing. And even with Alzheimer's patients, when I had the opportunity to do this and I had them raise their arms to breathe, they maybe couldn't raise their arms all the way, but I watched them try to raise their arms and it was really fun to watch. So then at the end, we do a little bit of laughter meditation, which is just straight on laughing. And then I always play a little bit of nice music and just do a few words of gratitude at the end. So a 45-minute session will give time for introduction and time for closing with the in-between playtime.
So do you think there's a difference between doing it in person or doing it online?
Doing it online is a really good second best. I I only knew laughter yoga online for the longest time because I only came to it in 2020
Right.
when you couldn't meet in person. So I only knew about laughter online. And when we all were told to stay home and we couldn't go out and meet, a lot of the laughter yoga people then did pivot to online communities because everyone wanted to feel better and they knew laughter could help them feel better. So they started more online facilitation. In person is really fun. In person does give you a little bit different energy, but online is still great. And I go to my mentor, my laughter buddy, and anyone's invited to go, runs an online laughter club every single Tuesday morning on Zoom, and it's at 9:30 Eastern time, and it's 1/2 hour, and she incorporates laughter as well as other modalities. We do like a little bit of tapping, sometimes a little bit of, well, she talks about all the energy work that she learns, and she talks about ways to get out of stress, not just laughing. So it's really fun. It's a super fun 1/2 hour, and she consistently gets 25 to 30 people that come on Zoom from around the world. We have people that come from the UK, we have people that come from the States, we have people that come from other parts in Canada. So if somebody wants a consistent Tuesday morning laughter club for free, they're invited.
The 9:30 is which time zone?
Eastern.
Eastern time zone, every Tuesday on Zoom.
On Zoom, and you'd have to register at her website, which is super easy. I could give you the website if you want it. Right now,
Yeah.
the website is called Kathy's Club, CATHYS Club, CLUB.com.
Okay.
And if somebody goes to that site, you will see register for Zoom for laughter, and you'll get your own individual link. And you can use that. You don't have to register every week. You can just register the one time and just use it repeatedly every Tuesday morning.
I think that's fantastic. It's something, I've tried so many different modalities. And I am a Reiki master and blah, blah, blah. And I have not done laughter yoga. And so I'm excited to learn.
I
I'm
hope you
really
join us.
excited.
I am there. I am there every Tuesday morning, with the exception of days that I have something else I can't be at. However, and what's happened now, how it segued is her husband, Kathy's been involved in laughter for years. And her husband wasn't involved in laughter at the beginning, but now he is, and he's been trained as a laughter yoga leader as well. So they share the 1/2 hour, and it's really fun. It's really fun.
Wow, that's great. So this has been so educational for me. And Janet, um, is there anything you want to leave us with? Is there a pearl of wisdom? Do you want to show us anything? What is it? And if so, just go for it.
Okay. Well, one of the quotes that one of my mentors always uses is laughter is too important in our lives to leave to chance, because you don't know if you're going to laugh in any given day. That's why laughter yoga and intentional laughter is so vital, because it's really important to invite laughter into your life every day. And with permission, we could do a little bit of laughter right now. We could just do something called the giggle jiggle, and everyone can have a few little giggles.
Go for it. Let's do it.
Okay. So whoever's listening, put your hands out in front of you. Wrap one arm around you and the other arm around you, the other side. Give yourself a nice hug. And we're going to giggle and we're going to wiggle and we're going to jiggle all at the same time. Sorry, all at the same time on the count of three. 1, 2, 3.
It feels,
Hindi. Yes, feels great.
it does. I feel good. Na, na, na.
I
Oh,
could laugh. I could laugh for a long time because I'm trained and I'm used to it. So it's just fun to get a little bit of laughter.
wow, Janet, that was great. Thank you so much. We've had so much fun. And for those of us that are not familiar with laughter yoga, will now have an opportunity to discover it and practice and, raise our vibration and make this world a better place. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.